Syria is at the brink of full-scale civil war at an epic proportion. These are the words by the American administration right after they suggested to remove the sanctions from Syria. They're coming and saying that Syria is about to become an apocalyptic jihadist nation. Now let's hear that video because there's a lot of things to talk about it. And I'm telling you right now, some of the things that I'm going to say are probably going to piss off a lot of people. But you know what? The truth hurts.
My view, which I've discussed with many of you individually, is the bad news is that the transitional authority figures, they didn't pass their background check with the FBI. Okay, they've got a tough history and one that we understand. But on the flip side of it is, if we engage them, it may work out, it may not work out. If we did not engage them, it was guaranteed to not work out. In fact, it is our assessment that, frankly, the transitional authority, given the challenges they're facing, are maybe weeks, not many months, away from potential collapse and a full-scale civil war of epic proportions, basically the country splitting up. The good news is that there is a Syrian national identity. It is one of the places in the Middle East where Alawis and Druze and Christians and Sunni and Shia have lived along, and Kurds have lived alongside each other underneath the banner of a Syrian identity until it was broken by a butcher, Assad, who pitted them against each other. So they face a number of challenges.
The problem with Syria is not the Druze. The problem with Syria is not the Christians. The problem in Syria is not the Kurds. The problem in Syria is not Iran. Israel took care of that. The problem in Syria is not Hezbollah. Israel took care of that. The problem in Syria is not the Assad regime. Israel took care of that as well. The problem in Syria are the Muslims. They are their own worst enemy, and they're the one destroying this country. You need to understand, Muslims are not the victims in Muslim countries. They are the oppressors. Because what happens when you are oppressing women, covering them full on, degrading them as humans, when you are oppressing free thinkers and executing people for free speech, when you are oppressing LGBTQ communities, when you are oppressing minorities, when you are stealing money from your own people and giving it to corrupt religious leaders who are using and abusing religion to oppress their own people, then by default, you're kind of bringing all these bad stuff on yourself. So the problem is not just the government. You need to understand the problem is it's coming from the people. They are literally fixated on a devastating way of life. And in Syria, that's on steroids. Yes, you have other Muslim countries that are not doing that because they're trying to look for the future, like the Emirates, Saudi Arabia. They're trying to move in a way that is progress into the future. But the majority of these Muslim countries are moving backwards. And people like to think, oh, the people there are so miserable, so innocent. They are miserable and innocent, but not because they're the victims. It's because they're the oppressors. They're literally self-inflicting them on themselves and on minorities. The reason Syria is not working is because of that. These are the people that they have in the administration. We're talking the Minister of Defense, the Minister of Justice. Here, watch this video in Arabic. I translate it for you.
هذا الإرهابي السافل الذي
Minister
يتولى
of
وزارة
Defense.
الدفاع السوري الآن ويتقبله المسؤولون العرب ويذهب إليه ولسيده وأمير جماعته الإرهابية الجولاني المسؤولون الغربيون، ها هو موقفه، رؤيته، عقيدته، منهجه في التعامل مع المسيحية ومع المسيحيين ومع السيدة مريم العذراء في أيقونة وتمثال.
This is a hard one.
بينما حقيقتهم
This is the Minister of Justice, and this video is actually executing a woman
وهو
in the
يشرف
street.
على قتل امرأة
One of
فقط
many women
بالرصاص
and men that he
وتنفيذ
executed
الإعدام
in his life
على
and oversee the
يطلق له
execution.
وزير
I
الدفاع
blurred the video because
وهو
it's a shocking video.
يحطم
But that's the Minister of Justice.
بئس ما جرى في سوريا وبئس من يبارك بؤس ما يجري في سوريا. هل يمكن أن يستبشر أي أحد ولو كان مجنونا بحكم سوريا تحت
Jolani al-Shara was an ISIS and al-Qaeda terrorist. He then moved on and opened his own version of al-Qaeda, only focused on Syria. And the whole idea was to ethnically cleanse Syria from anyone who is not Sunni like him. They wanted to kill the Druze, to kill the Christians, to kill the Alawites, to kill the Kurds. They wanted to kill the Jews, but they ran away from Syria. And they're even killing other Muslims. They want to kill everyone that is Shia. When someone like that sees an opportunity, thanks to Israel for defeating all these bad guys in the Middle East or taking their leaders out, and then he takes a government, and then he brings into his government other terrorist members and make them the Minister of Defense and the Minister of Justice, people who are undoubtedly terrorists, people who hate Christianity, hate any other minority, people who hate women, people who hate life, and they're part of your government. So what do you think? That giving them money is going to somehow solve the problem? Removing sanctions is going to solve the problem? That's like saying, let's give money to Osama bin Laden because he just took over a country. Maybe he's going to run it. You know, we've seen a great example with Afghanistan. America pulled out from Afghanistan, and for some bizarre reason, first of all, they gave them, so many military equipment. They say that out of the United States, the Afghan army have the biggest number of Humvees on planet Earth. That's insane because America gave them with this other gift, a radical terrorist organization. But then they start sending them money, billions of dollars. How is it serving them? Every second day, we hear a new fatwa that women are not, that girls are not allowed to go to school. They're depriving and stealing these young girls from their dreams. You've seen these images of these girls crying because when America was there, they were allowed to go to school. And many of these girls were suddenly saying, I have a future. I can become a student. I become a lawyer, a doctor. I can become a teacher, a singer, a dancer. And now that dream was taken. And then later on, women are not allowed to dress as they want. And then women have to cover themselves and then have to cover their face and now even have to cover their eyes. And now they're even saying that women shouldn't even speak in some places there because the voice of a woman might tempt a good Muslim man and lead him into temptation. So how does that work in Afghanistan? And let me tell you something. Syria is going to become the next Afghanistan. Undoubtedly, if people like Jolani and these government officials, the Minister of Justice, who is executing women in the street, if these kind of people are going to be leading that country, then doesn't matter how much money you give them, they're not going to become a democracy. They're not going to become fair for minorities. You know what? The best testing stone to see if Syria is changing is the Druze, is the Christians. Let's see how they treat minorities. Is the Jews, Israel. Let's see how they hate or love Israel. You know what? Forget about love, but at least not hate and want to destroy. These are very good testing stones to see if a Muslim country is actually moving forward or moving backwards. Look at the Emirates. The Emirates, they don't hate the Jews. Actually, I have a lot of Jewish friends of mine that went and flew to the Emirates, and they came and told me it's one of the safest places that they've been on this earth. It's clean, it's safe, it's respectful. People are abiding by the law there. Why? Because they abandoned their hate towards the Jews and the dream to destroy the Jewish nation. Also, they abandoned their hate toward minorities. They're actually welcoming minorities. I know several Druze people that live there and tell me they're living peacefully and they're enjoying it. So a good testing ground to see if that country is moving forward or moving backward, if they're your allies, if you're a Westerner, or if they're your enemies, is check these things. How are they treating the Yazidis? How are they treating the Druze? How are they treating the Jews? How are they treating the Christians? Qatar, for example, is not your friend. Iran is not your friend. Syria, not your friend. Lebanon even, not your friend. But for some reason, America seems to be falling. And we had a lot of hope and expectations for Donald Trump not to fall for that. We were used to having the Democrats falling for this so easily. But it looks like Donald Trump now is thinking that, yeah, I can bring democracy to Syria. Let's give them money. They're going to become a democracy. When did that ever work? When? Never. It literally never ever worked. Here, watch a very interesting video by an Israeli former ambassador for Israel to the UN and a former Likud Knesset member. And he's very concerned about what America is doing.
As steadfast allies, even the slightest shift concerns us. As president, advancing American interest will always be at the forefront, and rightfully so. And sometimes economic gains for America may come at the expense of Israel's interests, as we've seen recently. But we must also remember, a stronger America means also a stronger Israel. Yet, just as America must put her own interest first, so too must Israel. Yeah. And when our closest friends may be making a mistake, we must speak truth. So I have two important requests for President Trump in the name of so many people who deeply appreciate him. On Iran, now is not the time for another deal that will fail. Now is the time to strike while Iran is weak. Any deal with Iran isn't worth the paper it's on. The Ayatollah regime will simply lie or wait for a new administration before advancing their nuclear program.
If we're looking at track record, the only thing that Iran have done when it came to negotiating with the West about their nuclear deal and about their government was lie. That's the only thing that is 100% consistent so far. So if they lied until now, and they kept lying in your face, and they keep calling death to America, death to Israel, and as we're speaking, by the way, when Trump was talking about maybe making a deal with Iran, like a day or two later, Khomeini came and said that, they want to destroy America and they want to nuke Israel. So what is going on?
We need decisive action. Bring down the Ayatollahs. Chart a new path for a free Iran. No more kicking the can down the road.
No more kicking the can down the road. I'm feeling the pain of the people of Iran. They've been going through a roller coaster. I'm talking mostly the people who managed to flee and fled. The people in Iran are completely oppressed, but the people that I meet in Europe, the Iranians, every time someone comes with an idea that maybe the world will finally help them to get rid of these dictatorship that kidnapped that country and that is sponsoring terrorism all across the globe. And just an evil regime, evil religious regime. We've seen the pictures of how Iranian people used to look in the past, how free and modern, progressive they are, and how they are forcing women and children and men to dress right now, and etc., how they're behaving. Every time they get a slight of hope that maybe someone is finally gonna help them get rid of the evil that kidnapped their country, and every time they're getting disappointed. When Iran attacked Israel, a lot of people thinking, finally, Israel is gonna take down their gloves and gonna go and take them down, and the people in Iran can be free, finally. And then, there was stoppage to it, either if it's by Bibi or by the United States. We don't know what's happening behind the scene, but they stopped it. And then again, stopped it. And then again, stopped it. And now it seemed like Israel was going to do, like if the US was actually going to do something about it with Donald Trump, especially not with the Democrats. Forget about them. Forget about Europe. They're irrelevant. And he comes out of nowhere, goes to Qatar, get paid a lot of money. I mean, the money goes to America. I mean, they give America a lot of money and they give him an airplane. And then he backs down from that idea and says, yeah, we're going to negotiate with them. We're going to come to a deal. What kind of a deal? First of all, just back to the Iranian people. Imagine how frustrated they are. Every time that someone seems to find the bucket, what does he do? He kicks the bucket down the road for someone else to keep kicking it. You need to pick up this bucket and you need to fix the hole in it. And you need to, I don't know the rest of the analogy of the bucket. But anyway, you get my point.
And when it comes to Qatar, those terrorists in suits, I need to respectfully raise a concern. While I appreciate President Trump's commitment to creating economic prosperity, we must not lose sight of our guiding values. Gifts from those who bankrolled October 7th, promote anti-Israel incitement and support terror must raise a red flag. So, Mr. President, I turn to you and I urge you, don't let Qatar whitewash their crimes. Don't accept their plane. The plane carrying the leader of the free world, is a symbol of the sacred values that we fight to uphold. It must not be tarnished by the funders of jihad. Mr. President, your administration has always stood alongside Israel against terror. We are not just allies. We are brothers in arms who must face evil together. Unwavering and uncompromising. This is our North Star.
If there's certain alliances that I really love, is the alliance between Israel and the United States. True friendship, they're both looking in the same direction. If it's the alliance between the Jews and the Jews, if it's the commitment that Germany have to ensure that never again is never again, and their support for Israel, talking from the government and the older generation, not the young woke one that is walking the streets and calling for another Nazi Arab regime to come and take over the country. When you start losing sight of who are your friends and who are your enemies, who share your values and who doesn't, and when you start getting blinded by the blinky money and airplanes and I don't know what, bad things happen. Bad things happen. Just like the old saying that the best time to invest is when the streets are running with blood. There's going to be a lot of blood in the streets of Syria and Iran, inflicted by their own governments on their own people. And if the free world will just choose to ignore that because they have some kind of financial opportunity, that's morally very, very wrong. Very wrong. And I'm sorry, I can't support that. So yeah, I hope that people will wake up and start realizing that you cannot solve problems in the Middle East by giving them money or by telling them, hey, try democracy. It's nice. We got Starbucks. It doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. We know it in Israel because we're living there. We're trying to warn you guys. Some of you might be living far away and might think like, why don't they want it? Don't they want freedom? We live in a place that have freedom. Boy, I love freedom. But there's many places in the world that never really experience real freedom and don't know it is real freedom. And sometimes because they're so religiously zealot, they don't want what you perceive as freedom. That's not the freedom that they want. They want some kind of a whole different world than what you see. You got to accept that there is many places in the world that most of the viewers back home probably never visited and don't understand it. So you need to be very, very careful how you deal with them. And when you have so many lessons learned in history where we've seen that attempts like that failed miserably and only led for more bloodshed, terrorism, and death, then you gotta recalibrate. How am I gonna address that? And we can talk about that in another video. But anyway, guys, like I always say, don't do anything stupid. And in general, just don't do anything that I would do. And in that case, don't support radical jihadists who kidnap the government and are literally trying to oppress their own people. That's not a nice thing to do. Oh, and yeah, go and check my Patreon. And if you want to help me keep growing this channel, I'll keep doing these videos for you. You can find practical ways there to help me do what I'm doing, because after all, I'm doing this for free and out of my own free time. And also do the whole shebang. Like, share, subscribe, everything. It helps this channel grow and the algorithm to appreciate the content if you enjoyed it. If you didn't enjoy it, go and watch some cat movies or duck face movies. But if you enjoyed it, then help me spread the awareness about this channel. I highly appreciate that. But until then, guys, don't do anything stupid and see you next time.